Before we dive into this episode, I just want to let you know if you want to get access to episodes before anybody else, head on over to patreon.com/concerts that made us. And as a bonus, you'll get access to videos of some of the episodes and a host of other benefits. We've also teamed up with Band Builder Academy to offer you 10% off their membership. Details of both can be found in the show notes below.
Is everybody in? Is everybody in? The show is about to begin.
Welcome to the podcast, concerts that made us, interviews and stories, tales from the bus. We love taking you back to when it all went down, the greatest live shows and the cheering crowd sound. It's concerts, concerts that made us, concerts that made us.com.
This is Tyler.
And this is Ozzie.
From Marene, and you're listening to Concerts That Made Us.
She's a blessing, she's a curse, she's a beauty, could see right through me. In a dark room she resides among the living, not forgiving. Black magic girl. A black magic girl. Black magic girl. A kiss that'll kill a man and keep you down in the hole she found you in. You'll beg for a second chance when you're on your knees, beating her fantasies. One life for another, she cast a spell. I'm in trouble, nowhere to run. She's a black magic girl. A black magic girl. Black magic girl. Truth or lies, intoxicated goodbye. She'll never ever let you go. Black magic girl. The love she gave, infatuation, mistake. She'll never ever let you go. Black magic girl. Black magic girl. A black magic girl. Truth or lies, intoxicated goodbye. She'll never ever let you go. Black magic and the love she gave, infatuation, mistake. She'll never ever let you go. Black magic girl. Truth or lies, intoxicated goodbye. She'll never ever let you go. Black magic and the love she gave, infatuation, mistake. She'll never ever let you go. Black magic girl.
Tyler and Ozzie, you're very welcome to Concerts That Made Us.
Hi. We're very, very excited to be on.
Yeah, thank you very much for having us.
It's great to have you now. I'm looking forward to diving into your music over the next bit. You guys released Black Magic Girl on the 28th of July. What can you tell us about it?
So Black Magic Girl is, believe it or not, one of the more sort of slower Marene songs. I actually heard it yesterday in a compilation with a few other local acts, and I realized it's actually really fast, but it's quite a slow song for us, because a lot of our stuff is exceptionally high, octane, very, very quick and high energy. So for Black Magic Girl, it's a little bit slower for us, but it definitely is a song that was written about the allure of a beautiful woman who uses her beauty as her magic in order to grab a hold of you. So when you're talking about Magic Girl, it's about, like I said, this beautiful girl that grabs a hold of you, and then at the end of the day, she'll never ever let you go because she's got your heart. And she's going to basically use you for everything she needs from you. She's going to, the word would be, or the phrase would be, she's going to leech everything she can from you.
Right. I think if we all think hard enough, we probably know somebody like that.
Probably, yeah. But I mean, the inspiration for the song obviously was thinking of like classic songs, Cliff Richard's Devil Woman, and things like that. And, really trying to put our own spin on that. That really is what Marene does, The wheel was already invented, so we're just trying to put our own spin on it.
I see. And, it's off your upcoming album, Rising After Midnight. At this stage, what can you tell us about it? What can we expect from it?
So Rising After Midnight is the culmination of 6 years of hard work. So we've released 2 EPs previously, but this album, I really say when you put out an album, you're putting a line in the sand and you're saying this is us and this is what we believe in, and that's really what this album is. It's 6 years of hard work. Most of the songs that are on the album have already been played live multiple times and really become staples of our shows. And the songs, they're really, really showcase the sort of time that it takes to really to perfect a song. I mean, if you take a look at some of the EP stuff we've done, that stuff was written in the studio, and a lot of that stuff sort of, maybe it could have been refined more through the live setting, whereas the songs on this album, they have been refined, so they're the best they could possibly be. And so with Rising After Midnight, there's 9 songs, all killer, no filler, and it's something we're all really, really proud of.
Right. And is there or will there be a story behind the album or an underlying message you want fans to get from it?
Well, with Rising After Midnight, it really, like I said, because it's a culmination of hard work from the past 6 years, we've had a few lineup changes and we've had a lot of obstacles in our way. And so for Rising After Midnight, it's really a decree putting it out there saying, hey, we're going to rise after this. After everything we've been through, at the end of the day, tomorrow's a new day, and at midnight we're going to rise. So that's really it. But in terms of an overall sort of theme throughout the songs, there's no real theme. It's not a concept record at all. But it really showcases what Marene is. And of course, we want people, when they listen to us, to close their eyes and imagine us playing live, because, that's what we thrive on. We thrive on playing live. What you've probably seen, if you've got some information about us, is the fact that, we put on a live show that's heavily inspired by, the stadium greats, Van Halen, Kiss, Motley Crue, those type of things. But like I said, we try to put our own spin on things. So we're trying to put a modern twist on it, and while still retaining that amazing live show, those theatrics and over-the-top performances.
Yeah, we'll be diving deep into your shows now in a bit. I'm looking forward to hearing about them. And I'm glad you mentioned Motley Crue, because I'm actually wearing a Motley Crue t-shirt at the moment, so I definitely picked the right attire for this interview. But as a band then, how do you approach your songwriting?
Wow, Ozzie's going to be like, wait, when am I going to get a question? But the songwriting, basically, we're all. What's great about Marene is the fact that I might be the front man, but I'm definitely not the only singer. So Marene, who is our keyboardist, she writes material. Ozzie's got his own songs. I've got my songs. And we really try and be the Beatles in the idea of we have 5 distinctive personalities. Well, the Beatles had 4, but for us it's 5 distinctive personalities, and everybody's personality gets to shine through. And so from a songwriting perspective, normally what happens is we'll write our songs individually, and then we'll share them with each other after they're pretty much almost finished and say, okay, well, what do you think of this? And Ozzie might say, okay, change that lyric to this, or this chord doesn't work, or, some people might say and flat out say, I hate the song, or I don't think it's for us, or I don't think it's for Marene. And then we'll start over. But for songwriting, we don't do it all sitting in the room together, because I feel like a lot of the time you waste time doing that, because you've got so many ideas flying around that the song never gets written. So I think it's personally, my personal belief is that if you go and write your song by yourself, you've got a clear vision of how you want it to go. And then when you bring it to the band, that's when the band crafts the overall sound for the song.
Ozzie, anything you'd like to add to that?
No, he's 100% correct. So what I find works best for us is that when we write together, we have a chance to jam different ideas once a structure is already in place. So say, for example, Tyler brings a song, then he has an idea of how the bass line will go, and then we'll play it together, and I'll play his idea, but then I'll add a few, spins on it here and there, and then eventually from there it evolves into something else. So I find that the way we write music is it's very, how can I say, conducive to getting things done good, quick, and the right way, because we don't want to waste weeks or months at a time trying to figure out stuff individually, and then at the end of the day it just doesn't work out. So bring the structure, and then from there we work the song, work the idea until it gets refined, till it's perfect.
Right. And when it comes to making new music, then, is there a favorite part and a least favorite part for you guys? Is there a part that you really look forward to, and then another part that you're like, oh man, this just feels like work, I can't wait to finish?
Recording the drums.
Really?
You know what they say? They say, what do you call a drummer with half a brain? Gifted. So, recording drums is always an issue, I think, with us, because we really strive to have everything sort of sound the way we do in our head, but drummers got their own way of playing things, and I think it really takes a lot for them, because remember, when I'm playing guitar, I'm singing. Yes, that's a physical activity, but it's not as demanding as drumming. And so for a drummer to record, it takes them a little bit, I think, to get into the swing of things and get into the music and then feel that music. And then you can only record them until they start to dip. As soon as they dip below that little line, it's not like rugby where you can just sub them off. You got to stop for the day and come back the next day to record, because you want to make sure that the drums that are being recorded feel energetic. The power is there, whereas with guitar playing, the amp doesn't get tired. So that's the only thing with recording. And also, with drummers, there's no quick pop in you. You can't go, oh, I messed up that fill, let's just pop me in straight there. With drums, because they got all those room mics and things going on, you got to do, you got to start over from the top of the take or from the closest stop, where there's dead silence. So I think for recording drums, it definitely is more complicated than some of the other recording processes. So I think that's, look, Sky, our drummer, will say, oh, I look forward to recording drums. He loves playing drums. But for us, we know it takes the longest, because we've got to get the best performance out of it, energy-wise. Got to make sure he's playing the right fills. And, it really is, because the drums and the bass guitar are the foundation of every song. You got to make sure your foundation is strong. So that's, I'd say, not that we hate the drum recording, but it's more like it's the most complicated part of the recording process, in my opinion. Going in and doing guitars, doing vocals, that's easy. So, yeah.
Yeah. And then, is there a part you really look forward to? Yes.
My favorite part of the entire recording process is actually the production side. So the way it works with us, without giving too many secrets away, Ozzie's always like, don't tell people our secrets. But it's pretty standard. What we do is we record everything in the studio together. And then we work with a mixing engineer, amazing guy. His name is Alan. And he obviously does our recording. And then what happens is during the production side, which happens after the recordings are laid down, I come back to my little home studio, and then I add in all the little extra whispers and harmonies and any extra guitar parts and anything we felt like is missing from the mix. And that's really fun because we'll be mixing something and I'll be like, man, we really need something that reverses into that verse, if that makes sense. So, you go whoop into the verse. So then I got to sit and record those things and then run it through a reverb plug-in, reverse it and send it, back into the mix. And then we get that whoop, she's a blessing, she's a curse, so on and so forth. So there's a lot of fun that is had in that side of things because of the fact that you can really, really play around with different ideas. And especially, you can do some really silly sounds and things in the mix that people aren't going to hear, but it's more about filling it in. I call it the cookie monster. Is in the whenever you got shouty bits in choruses and stuff for crowd, and then you really got to make it sound aggressive. Then you go, into the microphone, whatever the lyrics are, in order to make that sound bigger than what it is. And that's really where the fun comes from, is trying to think of ideas to accentuate the sound, but without drawing the listener's ear.
That does actually sound like a hell of a lot of fun. And Ozzie, what about you? What's your favorite and least favorite part of making new music?
I think my favorite part would be recording vocals, because personally, I enjoy listening to songs that have very interesting harmonies and vocal lines. And I find that the way we do recordings is very fun because we'll have like a group of us around a mic or two mics, and we'll sing like chorus parts. For example, in one of our songs, we did a really cool thing where we sort of doubled and tripled our voices to make it sound like it's a massive, crowd. And that was really fun, experimenting with different ways of miking the room and, pitching our voices. We have a lot of fun when we involve other people as well. So on one of our songs, without giving away too much detail, we, invited a bunch of friends and family to the studio, and we got them to join in, and just to add that extra oomph, because it's always good to make a song sound alive, and when you have real people who want to be a part of that, it adds so much flavor to the music. And I think on the other hand, the part that I don't like is, I guess, mixing, or I can say production, because I love playing. All I want to do is just play. I want to play live, record in the studio. So I leave that speciality to Tyler. He's a genius at it, as you can hear from our past releases. Also, it's quite technical, and I guess not all of us can be experts at everything. So yeah.
Well, the normal saying is this is a reverb knob. It allows you to have more reverb. Now you know what to do with it, but I cannot tell you when to stop turning it.
I like it. And for you guys, where does this love of classic rock come from?
Man, this is such an interesting story. A lot of people wouldn't believe me if I told them this, but when I was around about 6-7 years old, I was watching Scooby-Doo, as you normally do at that age. And that entire episode, Shaggy and Scooby-Doo were going, oh, can't wait because Kiss is going to be playing, whatever, at this festival or whatever. I don't know. And at the end of the episode, there's Gene and Paul and Ace and Peter, and they're playing at the little festival thing. They do shout it out loud. And I think because of the hype up to going, oh, kiss, 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 whatever, by the time they're on the stage, and then I heard this music I'd never heard before, heard nothing like it ever in my life before, I think that's what really hooked me as a kid. And then from then onwards, Kiss were my favorite band because it was Scooby-Doo's favorite band. And, then I begged and pleaded with my parents to get me a Kiss CD, and my parents didn't know anything about Kiss. My dad liked Jethro Tull. My mother liked the Spice Girls. So, I think for them it was a bit odd that all of a sudden they've got this 7-year-old that wants to listen to, Kiss. And so they finally got me the CD, The Very Best of Kiss. And I fell in love with the songs on there. Strutter, Deuce, Got to Choose, Harder Than Hell, I Was Made for Loving You, Love Gun, I Stole Your Love, Calling Dr. Love. All these songs, and they were really mystical and magical, and the personalities were over the top. And then when I was finally around about 13, 14, I saw their live performances on YouTube, and I was so blown away with what they did. It really inspired me to pick up the mantle and go, you know what? I can do that. I can touch that nerve. I know if I get up on stage and we put a band together, that we'll be able to do something similar where people will feel like they're getting, like I said, that same nerve sort of touched,
Mm.
So that's where that sort of love came from. And then I went and discovered, Deep Purple and Free and Van Halen, Led Zeppelin, Iron Maiden, Black Sabbath, Rat, all the bands, You know how it goes. You start off in one place and then you branch off.
It's a massive rabbit hole.
It is, yes. Dropkick Murphys.
That's not a name I was expecting you to say now after all the other ones you named. And Ozzie, what about you? Where does your love of classic rock come from?
I'm not gonna lie. I used to listen to Dropkick Murphys very early on. Also, there's this one song they do. I think it's called "Shipping Up to Boston" or something like that.
Oh man, I
The
love it.
best song.
Oh,
Yeah.
I love
the
that
best
song.
song. And there was another one called, I think it's called Tattoo Rose.
Yeah,
Oh,
Rose Tattoo.
Rose Tattoo. Oh, I used to listen to that song when I like driving on the way to school in my headphones. I love that stuff.
I'm going to laugh here because I'm going to say that's my alarm. That's my alarm clock in the morning.
Oh man. I've actually seen them, I think, 6 times in concert now. Oh man, they're unreal. Every time they come to Ireland, I make sure I'm there.
Oh, it's great
Yeah.
stuff.
So for me, what happened was that the first Iron Man movie came out, and there was a scene where Tony Stark flies up into, I guess, the air, and then he lands at a massive Iron Man convention, and all these girls dressed in like the most skimpy outfits are dancing around him, and AC/DC's Shoot to Thrill starts playing, and it was the first time that I ever heard rock music. Because I come from a household where, it was not really allowed. And so I was so like obsessed with this genre, like, wow, the guitars sound so angry, the vocals sound so, in your face. And then, like Tyler, I went down a rabbit hole listening to bands all the time. And then at the time, VH1 used to play like old rock and roll videos. And there was one night where I was watching VH1 and I Was Made for Loving You came on. And I saw this band that was like dressed up in glitz and glamour and these shiny, sparkling guitars. And, the bassist was jumping all over the place. And I was like, whoa, this is really cool. And I also felt like, okay, I can do this as well. But then I went, when I was in school, I started playing jazz, and I played a lot of jazz music and jazz festivals, things like that. And it was only after school that I got into the punk scene. And then from there, met Tyler. And
We played a battle of the bands, and Ozzie likes bringing this up, so I'm going to bring it up before he does. His band beat my band at the time. But I was really blown away with Ozzie's stage persona, and it really matched mine, over the top, crowd focused. Because I was playing with a bunch of guys that they looked like they were embarrassed to be up on the stage,
Right.
And so because of that, I looked at Oz and I went, you know what, this guy, I want him in my band. I don't even know his name, but he's going to be in my band. And that's when Oz and I decided to get together and form Marene, as we know it today.
Right. Interesting. Stealing other bands' members. I like it.
Look, we were both in 2 bands going nowhere slowly, so.
Yeah. So, with the style of music you guys played in, do you find Do you find that it's easy to get pigeonholed, or maybe that people tend to not take you as seriously? I've spoke to other bands before that, try to bring classic rock into the modern age. And they've said to me at different times that a percentage of their followers kind of don't take them as a serious band. What's your views on it?
My thing is that you got to have fun. I think that when you're up on the stage, if you're too serious, I think you're not really doing what you should be doing, because you should be entertaining people. And at the end of the day, different people come to different shows for different reasons. Not everybody comes to a show for the music. Some people come to be entertained with the choreography we do, with other aspects. Some people come just the music. It really depends on the person. I think the biggest thing that sort of, I would say, pigeonholes us is the fact that people get the wrong idea. They think that we're a glam band like Poison, or that. And we try and say, listen, we're not a glam band. That's the one thing we definitely don't want to be, because glam is all about hair metal. Is all about look how pretty I am. Don't listen to the music. You're only coming because I look a certain way. And that's really not what Marene is about. Marene, we're all musicians. We all love music. We all have a deep passion for it. And that's why we started down this journey. However, the stage show that we put on is really the aspect that brings people to the show to see us live. Because these days we've got streaming, we've got YouTube. Why do you need to go out and watch a band live? You go for the live show. So we really try and excel on our live show to make sure that we're putting out something that is really, really on top and on the same level with international acts, if not better. And so, I think the biggest thing for us is, of course, we get put into this category of glam or hair metal or whatever. And that really, it closes people's eyes and shuts their ears before they've even put on the CD, And I think that is the one thing that does irritate me a bit. Obviously, because there's a stigma for it, because at one point it was like the boy bands, everyone wanted to be in a metal band because it got the girls, or it was lucrative for their pockets. So even though you were a horrible band with a smoke machine, you got an album and a tour and a this and a that, and really saturated the market with terrible music. And I think that's the problem. Is, again, people see a picture of us, or they read some headline that says this glam band, even though we don't push ourselves as that, and they just shut their ears and close their eyes before they've given us a try. So I understand where some bands are coming from, but at the same token, if you have people coming into your shows, everybody comes to the show for a different reason. So we try and fulfill everybody's needs and desires at our shows.
Yeah, I like it. And, it's called Concerts That Made Us. So after all, I have to ask you, as a concert goer, what concerts have made you guys?
Well, what made us is the fact that we never got to see the concerts we wanted to see.
Right.
Unfortunately, we're in South Africa, so the only people that come out to see us is Justin Bieber and One Direction. So you got to appeal to the masses, and the masses are pop listening people. And unfortunately, guys like us, we never got to see Kiss. We never got to see Van Halen. We never got to see Dropkick Murphys. We never got to see, any of the bands that really interest us. And if any of the bands that interest us now came to South Africa, they came here way before our time. Bon Jovi was here in the 90s. Metallica was here in like 2007 or something like that. So, it's a long time before we were old enough to start going to concerts. So that's the main thing. So concerts that made us, unfortunately, like I said, what made us is our desire to be the band we never got to see live.
You know what? I think that may just be the most perfect answer I've got to that question. There's something poetic about that.
Ozzie could probably tell you more about that, but what's really cool is that, Kiss is on their end of the road tour now, and my girlfriend, she got us tickets to go and watch them in Dubai, sorry. And so we're going to that in October. So that's going to be really cool. And I can only thank her so much for that, because that's a dream come true, see your heroes live in front of you. So then that'll be the concerts that made us. But up until this point, it's been not being able to see bands like that. But Ozzie's probably got more to say on that. He's got a different perspective.
You're going to have to send me a voice note or something after that concert and tell me all about it.
Yes, 100%.
And Ozzy, what about you? What concerts have made you, or what would you like to tell us about it?
So I guess from my perspective, I got tired of going to, local shows and seeing bands that looked like they just woke up. They would wear like the most scruffy clothes. They looked like they just walked in off the street. There's no respect to the audience, and that really changed my outlook on, performance, because you want to give the audience what they pay for. And if you are up there and you're looking like you don't want to be there, you're not smiling, you're not looking at the crowd, you're not interacting with people, well, like Tyler said, I can just stay at home and listen to the music on Spotify. So yeah, we would go and watch some of the biggest bands, and they would just be like, four normal dudes in buttoned up t-shirts and, I guess baggy jeans, playing on carpets. And, it's not entertainment. It's kind of like static, So that's why we always say, the hardest part about being in Marene is that we'll never get to see ourselves live. So we always wanted to be that band that, people who wanted something more out of just going to a show. We always wanted to provide something more than just, just some regular guys that just you woke up and said, hey, I want to play a bar. And they're sitting in a corner at some tiny stage. And it's kind of, it's a small mindset, because like we have our sights set on bigger stages. And as the years have gone by, we've only played from strength to strength. So every time you play, it's it's either a bigger stage or a better stage or better sound, better lights, better effects, explosions, sparklers, all those kind of things, and really makes the crowd go wow. There's something we say when people always ask us, what do you want the crowd to say when you guys finish? And I don't really want to use expletives on your podcast, but it's like a big F word. Wow,
Mm.
So yeah, that's the idea behind it. Yeah.
That sounds like quite the experience. And how do you guys work on your stage show then and keep it fresh and exciting for the next show?
Well, that's the thing is the problem we have is not only do we have to get on that stage, and we always say we get on the stage to beat the other bands, but I know that sounds so bad, but that we always try, and especially when we play shows, we book bands to open for us that are really, really good, so that we can get up on that stage and we've got something. You got to make an enemy in your head to really perform, and we even though we love the bands that play with us, we make sure we book the best, so that when we get up on that stage, we know where the bar is, so that we can go and we can raise the bar. Anyway, so what I would say is that when it comes to our live shows, trying to keep it entertaining is very difficult, because not only are we trying to, like I said, raise the bar based on the other bands that came before us, but we also got to raise the bar based on people's expectations of us. Because, when people come and see us, then they go home and they sit and they marinate in it, and they go, oh, this, and then they bring their friends to come and see us. And we want it to be just as exciting as it was the first time for them. And that's quite difficult because you're up against yourself. So you got to be better than what you were before. So for us to keep the show entertaining, we move songs around, we add more choreography, and we try and again make the show crowd focused. But at the end of the day, you can only pull so many rabbits out of a hat until everybody knows how many rabbits you can pull out of a hat in an hour. So it does become quite difficult to try and one-up yourself every time. And I think until you get to the level where you're playing stadiums and you're able to design an entire new stage every time you go on tour, I think it's quite difficult in the current club sort of venues and things that we play currently, because your stage is basically whatever stage they've got available for you, and you can only from there decorate it and then add your show to that stage. So yeah, that sort of answers your question, I hope.
It does. It does. I was just thinking as you were speaking there, your shows actually sound like, a stadium level gig in a club, if you know what I mean.
That's what we've always tried to strive to be. And the funny thing about that is, I've said we've been trying for a long time to get a proper concert promoter for us in order to, get into sort of bigger shows and concerts and things. And I always try and pitch it to them and say, we play every show like it's a stadium show. Every stage, doesn't matter how big or small it is, we'll play it like it's a stadium. For these people that go, what does that mean? Because, a lot of them, they think, okay, stadium show, One Direction, Justin Bieber, Taylor Swift, I don't understand. Meanwhile, we're trying to say stadium show. Think of the stadium rockers, Ozzy Osbourne, Motley Crue, Kiss, Iron Maiden. Those are big productions, and that's what we do no matter what stage it is. And a lot of people, it's difficult for them to grasp that because, I've had people say, you guys are great, but I have no clue what to do with you.
That must be tough to hear.
Oh, it is, we were watching, Marene and myself, the keyboarder, she's my girlfriend, she and I've been watching that Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary, and it's very interesting. People saying, when he was starting out as an actor, people said, you're way too big, you'll never be an actor. You'll never be an actor with an accent like that and with big muscles like that, because the actors that are in are the guys playing in Godfather. What are we supposed to do with you, They had no idea that you could be Conan, the Terminator, Commando. You could be in Predator and you could become this huge action star because it never been done before. So I suppose it's the same with us, even though, bands like Kiss and Iron Maiden, Van Halen, all those places, people, they've done the stuff before. You got to understand that for the modern environment and the modern listener, they've never seen anything like that before. They don't know it. Everybody who's over the age of 40 maybe knows, but nobody really that's younger than that knows. And so for concert promoters, they got to think about who do you pair up with the indie and pop artists, definitely not some glam band. And again, they put you in that little corner to justify it without sort of seeing that we're not a glam band, we're a rock band. And we take what we do seriously.
Yeah. Yeah. And I always ask, out of all the gigs you guys have played, is there one you revisit in your mind as maybe the best experience you've had?
Yeah, I think the last time that we actually did a huge show was Halloween of 2021. And the reason why I say so is because when we do shows, we normally like to involve other companies or brands that, would like to promote themselves. Because, I think we alluded to this earlier in the interview where, you want to, step up, level up. And we as entertainers, we provide a platform for people, right, to express themselves or express themselves through the music or just to have a good time. And so I would say the Halloween show was great because we worked with some rum companies, and we had like dress-up competitions, and we gave away tattoo vouchers. There were a lot of people who just came. They'd never heard of us before, but they said, hey, there's this thing going down, and they're giving away prizes, and it was just such a great time. Everyone had such a blast.
Sounds like quite a night. And when you guys think about when you're on tour, is there any funny or interesting stories that pop into your mind? What kind of antics do you get up to?
It's very difficult to tour in South Africa because there's only 2 big cities.
Right.
So, a lot of people, bands in the US, they go, oh yeah, we're going on a tour. And then there's like 300 cities to go to. Whereas in South Africa, there's only 2 real big cities. The rest are all small little towns, population 100. So, it's quite difficult to do any sort of real tour. But, the funniest thing that's happened to us was the previous lineup in the band. We went all the way to one town to play a festival, and the lead guitarist quit while we were there. So then we had to play the festival as only a 3-piece. So I think that is the most, I think, lead guitarist has ever done. And unfortunately, girls create politics. So that's the main story. Unfortunately, it's like that in bands. People will be like, "What? No, what are you talking about?" But it's true. You get your heartstrings pulled, and then all of a sudden, you turn on your friends, and that's how it goes. I suppose is what it is. But that's got to be the most interesting story for us tour-wise. But yeah, other than that, I mean, like I said, it's quite difficult to do any type of real tour in a country where you only got 2 real big cities, because you're playing a show every weekend, you saturate yourself to the point where instead of having one show every 6 months where you get 200 people to come and see us, if you're doing a show every week, you've only got 4 people that come and see you every week. That's the main thing. It's a bit difficult to do a big show all the time, or to tour. So yeah,
it's a bit of a fine line. You don't want to become too familiar.
Yeah, it's just, we used to do a lot of shows back in the day, and then I had someone say to me, I said, "Listen, man, I think you guys would get a lot more people to your shows if you'd played less shows, because then people wouldn't say, I'll just catch you at the next one."
When you guys aren't playing gigs, say there's a couple of months of a break in between your gigs, how do you stay connected with your fans?
Well, that's the thing, is we try and make sure that we keep up our social media, but at the same time, whenever we're not playing shows, we're recording music. So, the past 2022 was a bit of a mess, because myself and Marene, we moved up to Johannesburg, whereas the rest of the band is in Cape Town, where we were based. So that distance really put a strain on us, and we didn't play because we couldn't really figure out a way of getting it done. So what was really awesome is when we went back to Cape Town in December, we went and we recorded an album, and we started laying the foundations to get the band to be playing shows again across the 2 cities that we are in. And the way by doing that is we'll go down and play a show in Cape Town, and they come up and do a show in Johannesburg, and that allows us to play shows and rehearse over Zoom. I mean, Zoom is an amazing platform, so...
It's amazing the technology that bands have at their fingertips now compared to back in like the 80s or even the 90s,
Yeah, autotune.
Yeah. You'd wonder how some of them actually made it without it.
Yeah.
And one thing that always intrigues me is, I think it happens to every musician at some stage in their life. You play a massive gig, say on a Friday night, the biggest crowd you've played before. You wake up the next morning and it's kind of back to reality. How do you deal with those feelings?
People that meet me, even listen to me, even over the podcast, will probably say I don't really see him as a front man. Because how could you be a front man but at the same time be so calm and have this sort of, very, very relaxed way of speaking? And the same with Ozzie. Ozzie speaks like he's straight out of his doctorate, Whereas how do these 2 guys, how are they frontmen? How do they sing? How do they perform like they say they do if they speak like this? And the main thing is that when you get up on that stage, I'm no longer Tyler Duggan, the sales rep, the, person that has a day job. I'm Tyler Duggan, the rock star. And when I'm up there, I don't speak like this. I speak like this. How is everybody doing? Are we feeling good tonight? And all of a sudden it's a different person, because that's how it is with us. When we get up there, you're a new person. And so for us, I think it's very easy for us to separate ourselves from those 2 people. Obviously, I always say I'm never going to go buy milk in what I wear on stage.
Might get a few odd looks, all right.
Yes. Especially in South Africa, it's a very conservative country, so...
And Ozzy, what about you? Has that ever happened to you? How would you approach those feelings? Or are you similar to Tyler?
Yeah, so no, I agree with what he says, and I feel the same. But it's at the end of the day, you're an entertainer. Um, when you go to the circus, you see the clowns, and they're all painted up, and they're wearing these bright red noses and these wigs and these massive shoes, and for an hour or two, it's like, wow, this person is. It's just like it's you believe this person is a real thing, but he goes backstage afterwards, takes off the makeup, maybe he has a wife and kids, maybe he doesn't, maybe he goes home to an empty cold bed, and he just sleeps alone or
We're not
whatever.
talking about you, Oz.
I was just going to say, that sounds really sad. You're going to make me cry if you keep going.
Well, you know what they say, tears of a clown. This is why we have pets. So yeah, it's hard to wear a mask 24/7. But that's where taking me time is very important, and going to the gym, going out in nature, being out with your friends, and then maybe doing it again in the next month. And this is why when we were together, we rehearsed 2, sometimes 3 or 4 times every single week, so that we don't lose the sense of who we are. So we're always in touch with that thing that makes us special on stage. And that's why when we rehearse like we're on stage. So it becomes a part of who you are. So it's very easy to switch back to entertainment mode from work mode.
Yeah, that's the one thing, is that when we rehearse, we rehearse with our backs to the drummer, because that's how it's going to be on stage. I always hated the fact where bands stand in a circle and look at each other, because it's not going to be like that. When you're on stage, you're going to be looking at the crowd in front of you. So when we rehearse, we set up the rehearsal space like it's the stage. We do all the choreography. I do all of the stage talk. So I'll be sitting there talking to a bunch of empty boxes going, "Let me hear you. You having a good time? How we doing so far?" And we don't just all look at me and go, okay, well, now he's doing the talking section. No, the other guys will sit and they'll be pointing and interacting with the floor, because that's how it's going to be when you're on stage. You're not going to be looking at me talking. You're going to be looking at the crowd, getting them going. So it's very important for us to rehearse the way we play live. And I wanted to say as well, regarding band practices 2, 3 times a week, I went through a very rough patch a couple of years ago, and the one thing that really, really got me through it was that rehearsal I knew was coming up, because it allowed me to step into the person I really, really wanted to be, which was the person that got up on stage and was able to command the stage and talk to, hundreds of people at a time and have them almost envy me for it, They're in the crowd, and Ozzy always says, people, they look up to bands and musicians and actors because they want to live vicariously through them. And, I got to live vicariously through my stage persona twice a week at band rehearsal. And it really, allows you to exit that depressing state that, sometimes people can get trapped into.
I actually really, really like the psychology behind that. And, I suppose before we dive into the last couple of questions, you've told us already about the upcoming album, but future plans, is there anything else you want to share with us? Any big gigs, anything big happening besides the album?
Yeah, we are playing a show in Cape Town, and then the rest of the band is going up to Johannesburg to headline a festival. After the album comes out, we'll think about doing some music videos to give our fans a bit more eye candy than what we already have.
In terms of plans, I think that's pretty much it for now. We try and you put out an album, and if you go and say, okay, we're also going to now put out a EP or something after that, no one's going to listen to your album because they're going to want to listen to the new thing. So, you got to sit and wait for it to marinate, see how it does, see what people's favorite tracks are, and then move in that direction. Obviously, you don't want to be putting out stuff that no one's going to listen to, then what's the point?
Yeah, exactly. It kind of defeats the purpose. And we'll dive into the last few. So these are a few random questions, but I'm intrigued to see what answers you come up with. So if you guys could see any performer from history in concert for one night only, who would it be?
Peter Steele from Typo Negative.
I like the quickness of the response there, I have to say.
That guy was a musical genius. I mean, he invented an entire genre that I don't think that anyone else has ever been able to come close to. There's no such thing. I've never ever seen a band pull off that Typo Negative sound ever. And I remember when I discovered Typo Negative at the age of 13 or 14, I was just blown away by their music. So I'm curious to see Ozzie's answer here.
Tyler, I think you just stole my answer. Because as a bassist, you know, that's like the pinnacle of sound. You know, like I agree with what he said. When I discovered Typo Negative, I was shocked at like how can a band sound so good and so unique, and no one else has even been able to like recreate anything of what they've done. And yeah, it's just like it's something that I would have loved to have seen. But if not that, I would have loved to have seen Rush before they disbanded. I think you know, as also once again as a bassist, I'm very enamored with Geddy Lee and the drumming of Neil Peart. Unfortunately, when he died, you know, before he could do another show, but yeah, I think those are one of the like the great rock and roll bands of all time that I would have loved to have seen.
They would definitely make for some pretty cool concerts, all right. And this one now, I have to say, it's a bit odd, but if you had to spend 24 hours locked inside a room with any musician from history, who would it be?
Paul Stanley of Kiss. I love that guy. He's so cool. Ever since I was a little kid, I've always looked up to Paul Stanley and his ability to be one of the greatest frontmen of rock. You know, a lot of people might say Freddie Mercury or something like that, but there's just something about the Star Child that really captures my attention. And you know, I've always said if I had to have a man crush, it would be Paul Stanley. So you know, he was hitting notes in the '80s in some of those songs that only dogs could hear. So it really is. He's one of, I gotta say, he's you know, he's my idol. I always looked up to him my entire life from the moment I was introduced to Kiss, and I've always wanted to be as close to that as I ever could. Live vicariously through him.
You know, I'm coming up on, I think, about 150 episodes now, and I'm 99.9% positive that's the first time someone has said Paul Stanley for that answer, would you believe?
Well, you know, a lot of people a lot of people get into music because they like Nirvana these days. You know, they see that as a legacy band. So most people probably have said Kurt Cobain, or they would have said, you know, maybe Alice in Chains, or maybe some of the 90s bands, whereas, you know, my roots go deeper to the 70s.
I like it. I like it. I wouldn't mind spending some time with Paul Stanley myself. He seems like he'd be a really cool guy.
He's probably an asshole, for all I know.
I'm sure, yeah, he probably does have a bit of an ego, but if you could dig under the ego, you know?
Yes, 100%.
Yeah. And Ozzy, what about you? I'm intrigued to see who you pick.
Oh, this is actually a very hard question because I can give you multiple answers from different genres.
Right.
Am I allowed to give non-rock and roll musicians as an answer?
Oh yeah, as long as at some stage in their life they have held a microphone or a musical instrument, you can pick them.
Well, Tyler's going to be very upset with me. So I apologize in advance. But I think for me, I would love to spend some time with a guy called Karl-Heinz Stockhausen. And the reason is
he the leader of the SS?
I don't know if you can say that.
No, it's got one of those names.
Yeah.
I didn't want to say it.
So the reason for me is because as we know, music was pretty much a science back in the 50s and the 60s, right? And in order to record any music, you'd have to go into this massive room with all these big equipment, and they would hand wire electrical components, and it was really a lot of engineering and physics that actually went into the technical part of music. And this guy, you can check him out if you're interested, but he sort of revolutionized music composition and music as an art form. He was a musician in the genre of avant-garde. So the more popular, I guess, composers in that space would be someone like Philip Glass or Steve Rich. But the reason why I say I would love to spend some time with him is because I want to know, or I want to be able to understand, how does someone go from, creating traditional music to turning it over on its head, and expressing sounds in new forms and finding new ways to express instruments that people have never done in the past. I mean, I could say someone like David Lee Roth, but I mean, he just spent the whole entire 24 hours talking about himself. That's
All right, guys, so I'm David Lee Roth, and hey, so like, an whole hour of that, I think he's the only one that's going to leave the room alive.
yeah. I just feel like like on the floor, passed out, my ears bleeding after hearing him talking about like he's smoking a Marlboro before the show or during the show. Yeah, to warm up. Or like listening to him talking about his rock climbing, or all that kind of stuff. Yeah.
Was Philip Glass the guy that did that song, which is like 3 minutes 20 seconds or something, where it's just silence?
It was a different guy.
Oh, it was a different guy. Okay.
Yeah.
I have to say, I really like that answer now. I like the thinking behind it. It's really thinking outside the box, And if you thought that one was hard, this one is going to be near impossible. I'm very sorry. I apologize beforehand. But if there was a song to appear on the soundtrack to your life, what would it be?
That is a difficult one. I definitely haven't been asked that before.
Right.
Geez, that is quite the difficult one. A song to appear on my soundtrack. I mean, I could make a joke out of it and say, The Joker by the Steve Miller Band, but I'm not a midnight toker, so I wouldn't be able to say that one. I mean, look, I think that as any musician, I think the song that would appear on everybody's own life soundtrack is "I Want to Rock and Roll All Night and Party Every Day," because I think that song perfectly personifies exactly what you want to be as a musician. That's why we get into this in the first place. I mean, you pick up a guitar, and it sounds bad, it sounds sexist or whatever, but everyone picks up a guitar because they've discovered this thing called girls, and and the guitar is the best way to achieve that. And so, I think from then onwards, everybody has this dream of being a musician and rocking and rolling on the stage all night, and then waking up and partying every day. So I got to say, the most cliche answer would be that song.
Maybe cliched, but I think it's actually a perfect answer. And Ozzie, what about yourself?
Yeah, no, this is also a very hard question for me. Because originally I was going to say 10 Million Bicycles. I don't know if you know that song.
Yeah.
So
I don't know who does that song.
It's a lady, isn't it? It was out about 10, 15 years ago.
Yeah, there are 10 million bicycles in Beijing, and that's a fact. That song, but it's not that song, but a similar song called "Silly Love Songs" by Paul McCartney and Wings.
Right.
And I guess the reason behind that is so the idea behind the song was that John Lennon once told Paul McCartney that all he writes is love songs, right? And Paul said to himself, you know what? Yeah, people love love songs because it's beautiful. And, that's like one of the best human experiences that anyone can, experience. And so the entire song is about like, so what's wrong with writing silly love songs? I love it. People love listening to it. It's beautiful. It's a beautiful message. Because, as we know, music is about love. So, yeah.
Perfect.
Breakup songs are even better, but the thing is with breakup songs is when you miss the one part that hurts you the most, you got to listen to the whole song again.
True. You know what I'm thinking? I want to go off now and find if that frog song that Paul McCartney wrote is a love song.
Do. Yeah.
Oh man. Listen, guys, it's been an absolute blast now. I've really enjoyed chatting with you. It was a fun one.
Ryan, we haven't heard your answers to those questions.
Oh man, I was hoping you wouldn't ask.
I am going to ask, because I'm going to ask you, what was the concert that made you?
Oh, that is tough. Oh, I always say it's either Metallica or AC/DC. I seen AC/DC back in 2009 and Metallica in 2019. And just aside from the music, the presence and the stage show they put on just blew me away,
Yeah, have you been able to see Ghost yet?
Oh man, yes. They actually supported Metallica in 19
wow.
and then they came back again, I think, just at the end of the year. And I saw them there. They were in a smaller venue, an indoor venue. Oh God, just perfection. Absolute perfection.
That is a band that both Oz and I both look up to. I think that's the only band that's a modern band that's actually doing what we want to do currently. So, if they can break out of the chains that shackled them, I'm sure we'll be able to do what we want to do.
Definitely.
So it's funny you mentioned Ghost because the day that I knew Tyler and I were going to be friends is when we were sitting in his car, and we were not really like friends at the time because I just joined the band to sort of help out with this one gig. And we were sitting in the car, and he played me Square Hammer by Ghost, and he was like, "Hey, do you know this band?" And I listened to it, and I was like, and I had been listening to Ghost for a long time before that, and no one else I knew listened to Ghost. And the moment he played me that song, in my head, I was like, you know what, this guy, he's gonna be my brother one day.
Oh, I love it. And I suppose if I had to spend 24 hours locked in a room with someone, I would pick either Jim Morrison from The Doors or Elvis Presley.
You didn't have to say who Jim Morrison was.
I forgot who I was speaking to for a second.
Elvis Presley, is this before or after you went to the bathroom?
Preferably maybe 1968 era. The 68 comeback.
The comeback show. Yeah. When the first time I ever saw Elvis Presley was I was at my grandmother's place, and she had this DVD and she put it on, and the first song was Jailhouse Rock when he comes down on the pole. And I think that before Kiss, I was actually first enamored with Elvis Presley. Everything from gelling my hair back like that to his music was just crazy. I loved his voice. And I think it's hilarious how when I was a kid, all I wanted to do was sing deep like Elvis Presley. But as I matured, all I wanted to do was sing higher and higher and higher, like, John Bon Jovi. So, Sammy Hagar.
It's actually a perfect evolution from Elvis to all the rest of the guys, yeah. And, I'm realizing now how hard these questions actually are.
Yes.
Yes, they are. The soundtrack one, I'm going to be really sweet now and say Paul Simon has a song. I'm not entirely sure of the title of it, but
Bridge Under Troubled Water.
Oh God, no. Nothing so depressing. It's a song he wrote for his daughter, and it's about that nobody will love her more than her father. So I suppose I have two daughters and they are my world, so that would probably have to appear on the soundtrack to My Love Somewhere.
That's a good one. My dad always says for his it's Father and Son by Cat Stevens, I would say. He's always said that's his song. So
Yeah. Nice one. Then, of course, I could just flip it around and say LA Woman if I wanted to rock out, you know? All right. Listen,
all right.
guys, it's been an absolute blast. And I forgive you for switching the questions around on me.
You know, the problem is with us is that once we get talking, we don't stop, you know? I've heard that a couple times. I go, guys, it's come on, you're hijacking the whole airwaves here.
Oh, look, we'll have to have you on again sometime.
No, please do. I mean, this has been really fun. It's been, you know, it's always great when we get to chat to people outside of the local scene. And, you know, the great thing about Ireland is your rugby might be horrible. No, I'm joking. You know how it goes. We got to make sure that we're hyping ourselves up ahead of the World Cup coming up.
Oh, I know.
But I mean, you guys are number one in the world, so it's okay. We'll replace you very soon.
I doubt it.
No, but outside of the rugby aspect, we never really get to really see what Ireland's music scene is like. Or interact with people from it. So it's really awesome, and thank you so much for having us on. It's been a blast.
Stripping down to wild desires, she'll paint her passion in lipstick. Gives me the stare, fuel in the fire. Her body's been stopped and nostalgic. Ripping out the laws that bind the body to me tonight. Who wants to be by themselves when you know, baby, I don't fight? I'm a prisoner of your love. Lock me up, can't get enough. I'm a prisoner of your love. Lock me up, can't get enough. I'm a prisoner. Lock the door and discard the key. I'm not getting out of here alive. She'll do it slower to torture me, to send me in overdrive. Racing out with the way she felt, her body for me tonight. She hides her love way too well, 'cause she's got me in a cell. I'm a prisoner of your love. Lock me up, can't get enough. I'm a prisoner of your love. Lock me up, can't get enough. I'm a prisoner of your love. Lock me up, can't get enough. I'm a prisoner of your love. Lock me up, can't get enough. I'm a prisoner. I'm a prisoner of your love. Lock me up, can't get enough. I'm a prisoner of your love. Lock me up, can't get enough. I'm a prisoner of your love. Lock me up, can't get enough. I'm a prisoner of your love. Lock me up, can't get enough. I'm a prisoner and I'm locked in your cell. You got me only loving you. I'm a prisoner, I'm locked in your cell. You got me only loving you. I'm a prisoner, I'm locked in your cell. You got me only loving you. I'm a prisoner, I'm locked in your cell. You got me only loving you. I'm a
Hey guys, I really hope you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please rate and review us on iTunes and Spotify.
And if you're interested in signing up to Band Builder Academy, use the link in the show notes below and enter the code CONCERTS and you'll receive 10% off. So until next time, keep rocking.
Hey, what are you guys still doing here? The show's over. It's over. You can go home. Go on. We'll see you next time. We'll be here. Bye.